Of course, the intelligence of the masses yielded results. However, the second transcendence technique was not suitable for Lin Feng. Moreover, in Lin Feng's opinion, the second transcendence technique seemed to be even more difficult. He had the sacred stone of anathema. Gathering the sacred stone of anathema fragments might allow him to comprehend the principle of time. However, what about the second transcendence technique? It had to withstand the rejection and attack of the entire universe. Even Lin Feng's current combat body could not guarantee that it could completely withstand the attack of the universe, let alone others. Perhaps one day, when the origin universe was weak and no longer as powerful as it was now, such a transcendent might be born. But for now, it was impossible. Transforming into the universe was the only feasible way of transcendence. Everyone. Does anyone know this stone? If you have any clues or offer this stone, you can make a request. As long as it does not violate my principles, I will agree to it. Lin Feng took out the sacred stone of anathema. In his current state, he no longer needed to be so secretive. He was a universe supremacy who could dominate for an era. Why would he care about his secrets being leaked? Moreover, he had the ability to guard the sacred stone. I think I've seen this stone before, but it doesn't look that similar. Seeing the sacred stone of anathema in Lin Feng's hand, one of the divine emperors frowned. Oh, where have you seen it before, divine emperor? Lin Feng felt a burst of joy, and he hurriedly asked. Supremacy, there was once a big bang in the universe. I happened to venture deep into it, and vaguely remember seeing this kind of stone. There seemed to be only a small fragment, far smaller than the stone in the supremacy's possession, so I'm not sure. Hearing the other party's description, Lin Feng was even more certain. The sacred stone of anathema. It must be a fragment of the sacred stone of anathema. What that divine emperor saw should only be a sacred stone of anathema fragment. Hence, it was naturally much smaller than the sacred stone of anathema in Lin Feng's possession. The sacred stone of anathema in Lin Feng's possession was fused from 5 sacred stone of anathema fragments, so it was naturally relatively massive. A big bang? Then do you know where that sacred stone of anathema fragment is now? The divine emperor shook his head and said, I only saw it briefly during the Big Bang. I thought it was some miraculous item, but when I realized that there was nothing special about it, I threw it away without much thought. Perhaps it was swept elsewhere by the Big Bang. Or perhaps it was still within the range of the Big Bang. You threw it away without much thought. Even though Lin Feng had become a universe supremacy, he could not help but sigh at this moment. This was the first time he had seen someone who could throw away the sacred stone of anathema without much thought. However, this was rather normal. If one did not observe the sacred stone of anathema carefully and test it with laws, they would not know its use at all. It made sense that it could be casually thrown away by a divine emperor. Moreover, that was during the Big Bang. There were countless miraculous items. Why would they pay attention to a small stone? I think I've seen it before too. It was also during the Big Bang. Another divine emperor also spoke up. Actually, they had already come back to their senses now. What Lin Feng, a universe supremacy, was looking for must be extraordinary. The divine emperors who had seen and even casually thrown it away back then must already feel incomparably regretful. Looks like it's necessary to return to the location of the Big Bang. Lin Feng thought to himself. Could it be a coincidence that multiple people had discovered the sacred stone of anathema during the Big Bang? This was likely no coincidence. Perhaps there really was a sacred stone of anathema fragment at the location of the Big Bang, but no one had ever noticed it. At this thought, Lin Feng's heart burned with desire. Divine emperors, can you follow me to the location of the Big Bang? If anyone can find this stone, my promise just now is still valid. The eyes of the various divine emperors lit up. This was the promise of a universe supremacy. It was definitely not something to be taken seriously. All right, we just need to look for a stone. The divine emperors all agreed one after another. Even if the stone was miraculous, how could it compare to a promise from Lin Feng, the universe supremacy? All right, then thank you for your trouble, divine emperors. There's no time to lose. Let's set off immediately. Lin Feng did not hesitate any longer. It was probably unprecedented for someone to mobilize so many divine emperors to search for the sacred stone of anathema. If the sacred stone of anathema really existed in the place of the Big Bang, no matter how deeply hidden it would not be able to escape the search of so many divine emperors. Buzz. Lin Feng waved his hand, and a spatial gate appeared in the hall, connecting directly to the location of the Big Bang. Many divine emperors walked through the spatial gate. With Lin Feng's current methods, teleporting tens of thousands of people at once would be a piece of cake, let alone only hundreds. Swoosh! Lin Feng also walked into the spatial gate. Then, the spatial gate was instantly sealed. Outside the origin universe, a huge spaceship was approaching slowly. Swoosh! Four figures instantly flew out of the spaceship. Their bodies were all massive, but in the entirety of chaos, they were wholly insignificant. They were as inconspicuous as a drop in the ocean. The origin universe. It's really the origin universe. A mysterious person in a black robe with a huge tumor on his head and a sinister expression looked at the huge origin universe in front of him. His entire body was trembling, and his eyes were green. He looked incomparably eager. Boss, I wasn't lying to you, right? I discovered this origin universe a long time ago, but I can't blast open the origin universe alone. Third one, well done. The mysterious man in the black robe nodded, feeling very satisfied. Langda, you three felons of chaos have roamed the chaos for so many years. I never expected to have the opportunity to encounter an origin universe. Moreover, from the looks of it, there are no signs of invasion in it yet. You've really struck it rich. The other mysterious person, who had a bloated body and looked like a meatball, laughed coldly and stared intently at the origin universe. It was extremely lucky to encounter an origin universe in the chaos. Forget about half-chaotic lifeforms like them. Even those great chaotic lifeforms might not be able to encounter an origin universe after roaming the chaos for countless years. Fat Worm, the three of us discovered this origin universe. We invited you here because we want to rely on your corrosive poison to corrode the cosmic membrane of this origin universe. We've already agreed on the conditions. What each person can obtain after entering the origin universe will depend on their own abilities. Langda was the leader of the three felons of chaos. He was the one who had invited Fat Worm naturally. He had to clarify the conditions with Fat Worm. Otherwise, how great of an opportunity was contained in an origin universe that has yet to be invaded. Just the thought of it would drive one insane. If not for the fact that the three of them could not break through the cosmic membrane, why would they invite Fat Worm? Of course. An origin universe can be shared among the four of us. If the four of us obtain the resources of this origin universe, we will definitely be able to advance to half-chaotic lifeforms. We might even be able to completely transcend and become chaotic lifeforms. An origin universe is enough to be shared between us. Moreover, there are three of you and I'm alone. I have more reason to be prudent than you. All right, let's begin then. The three felons of chaos stared greedily at the origin universe in front of them, unable to conceal the incomparable excitement in their eyes. Fat Worm had a bloated body, and his eyes flickered with a green light. Facing this massive origin universe, he was like a tiny worm. Fat Worm, can you handle it or not? Don't worry. Apart from those great chaotic lifeforms, there are only a few rare artifacts and innate abilities that can break through the cosmic barrier of the origin universe. Coincidentally, my innate ability is corrosion. It's impossible to corrode the cosmic membrane of the origin universe entirely. However, corroding a small gap that's enough for us to enter is not a problem. Fat Worm's body began to expand rapidly. Huge, bulging tumors appeared on his chin. There was a ripping noise. Then, the tumors broke, and a large wad of green venom sprayed out of the tumor, immediately attaching itself to the cosmic membrane. Thud, thud, thud. As expected, the cosmic membrane began to shake violently. Light circulated, and the incomparably tough cosmic membrane was actually melting bit by bit. Although it was very slow, it was indeed effective. Fat Worm's corrosive poison can indeed melt the cosmic membrane, Now we have a chance of entering the origin universe. A trace of anticipation appeared in Langda's eyes. The reason he invited Fatworm to share such a huge benefit as the origin universe was that Fatworm's innate ability could corrode the membrane of the origin universe. This was rare even in the chaos. Ordinary half-chaotic lifeforms, even peak half-chaotic lifeforms, could do nothing even if they discovered an origin universe. This was because even peak half-chaotic lifeforms could not break the tough cosmic membrane of the origin universe. Only a few artifacts or innate abilities could break the cosmic membrane, but such artifacts were all very precious. The three felons of chaos could not afford them. Only the Fatworm, which was not too strong and could be suppressed by the three felons of chaos, had the means to corrode the cosmic membrane. That was why Fatworms was invited. Otherwise, why would they dare to invite others to such a major discovery in the origin universe? Boss, I heard that there are also some life forms in the origin universe. There are even some relatively powerful life forms. Will it be dangerous? The second one of the three felons of chaos was more cautious and asked cautiously. Dangerous? Of course there'll be danger. There's danger everywhere when roaming the chaos. However, the native life forms in the origin universe have never come into contact with the chaos. They don't even have certain cultivation techniques. How strong can they be? We're semi-chaotic life forms after all. Any one of us can defeat those native life forms. Do you understand now? The origin universe is a treasure trove that contains infinite treasures. The native life forms inside are insignificant. We should be paying attention to Fatworm. This fellow has always been rather tactful and sinister in the chaos. Don't be fooled by his simple-minded appearance. After entering the origin universe, we must watch him closely. Langda of the three felons of chaos seemed very wary of Fatworm. Boss, if Fatworm is so troublesome, we might as well kill him after entering the origin universe. The third one suddenly spoke with a fierce expression. No, we can't let anything happen to Fatworm for the time being. It's better to be safe than sorry. If anything goes wrong in the origin universe, we still have to leave the origin universe. If we want to leave the origin universe without the innate ability of Fatworm, can the three of us blast open the cosmic membrane? I'm afraid it'll be very difficult. Even if we can blast it open, if the origin universe has developed a will, we'll be finished too. Do you understand? We can't let anything happen to Fatworm, but we can't let him plot against us either. Boss, we understand. Once we enter the origin universe, we'll keep an eye on this guy. The three felons of chaos discussed countermeasures at the back. Their eyes filled with anticipation. Fatworm was also constantly releasing the corrosive poison. The tremors of the cosmic membrane also became more and more intense, and had already become much weaker. It would not be long before the cosmic membrane was broken. Soon. His strength might improve greatly after entering the origin universe, and he might even obtain cultivation resources in the origin universe. He still had a chance to completely metamorphose into a great chaotic life form. At such thoughts, Fatworm was incomparably excited. Buzz. In the quiet cosmos, a huge spatial gate appeared. Rings of spatial ripples spread in all directions majestically. Swoosh! Lin Feng stepped out of the spatial gate. At the same time, many divine emperors exited the spatial gate behind him. I've come to the end of the universe again. Lin Feng looked at the dark cosmos and felt a little emotional. This was the end of the universe. The Big Bang of the universe began here. This place had a very special meaning to Lin Feng, because strictly speaking, Lin Feng had actually begun his ascension from here. Back then, during the Big Bang, Lin Feng was in the limelight and killed a grand emperor, earning his fame. From that moment on, Lin Feng began his path of ascension, and until now, he had already become a universe supremacy. However, not long after the last Big Bang, Lin Feng had already become a universe supremacy. There was no knowing how long he would have to wait until the next Big Bang. At the end of the universe, everything was deep and pitch black. There was nothing there, nor was there space. In the past, Lin Feng did not know what this invisible barrier was, but now he knew. It was the cosmic membrane, the final layer of defense of the origin universe. Beyond the cosmic membrane was chaos, the chaos that countless divine emperors yearned for. Even a trace of chaotic aura could enhance the combat bodies of divine emperors. In the chaos, there was chaotic aura everywhere. Once one entered the chaos, how much would their strength increase? However, even Lin Feng could forget about breaking the cosmic membrane to enter the chaos, let alone others. Even a divine emperor could not destroy the cosmic membrane. Supremacy. This is where I saw this stone back then. Lin Feng nodded. This area was the area of the Big Bang. However, the Big Bang involved all kinds of chaotic things entering the universe in the first place. Perhaps at that time, the cosmic membrane would be slightly damaged. The explosive storm was enough to sweep everything over. The sacred stone of anathema might have appeared here back then, but now? Probably no one knew. However, Lin Feng had brought so many divine emperors with him to help him find the sacred stone of anathema. Lin Feng was about to search for the sacred stone of anathema with the various divine emperors. The cosmic membrane stretched on without end at that empty region at the end of the universe. However, at this moment the cosmic membrane seemed to be shaking slightly. But Lin Feng was not the only one who sensed it. The other divine emperors also sensed it. How could they not sense how powerful the tremors of the cosmic membrane were? This is the cosmic membrane shaking? Could the Big Bang have erupted in advance? Many divine emperors had surprised expressions. They had also learned that only a few hundred years had passed since the Big Bang. How could it be the Big Bang again? However, as time passed, the tremors of the cosmic membrane became greater and greater. Lin Feng's mental power was also sweeping through the entire cosmic membrane in a frenzy. Finally, he found the source of the tremor in the cosmic membrane. Huh? That's from outside the cosmic membrane. A strange glint flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. Thud, thud, thud. As time passed, a lot of fat worms' corrosive poison had already been consumed. However, the cosmic membrane was also becoming weaker and weaker, and a hole was about to open up completely from the corrosion. Soon, the three felons of chaos were already standing behind Fat Worm, staring intently at the weak cosmic membrane. Once the cosmic membrane broke, they would fly into the origin universe immediately. Second one, third one, get ready. Lang De of the three felons of chaos stared nervously at the cosmic membrane. He had been waiting for this moment for too long. Back when they discovered this origin universe, they had thought of all kinds of methods. Unfortunately, they still could not break the cosmic membrane. In the end, he had no choice but to tell Fat Worm this secret. Every additional individual that learned the secret of the origin universe was one more individual who would fight for cultivation resources. However, there was nothing they could do. If they could not break through the cosmic membrane, everything would be in vain. Fortunately, the cosmic membrane could finally be broken now. Boom! Suddenly, the entire cosmic membrane shook violently, and a huge hole appeared in the cosmic membrane. Success! Haha! Origin universe, we're coming! The three felons of chaos were overjoyed. Together with Fat Worm, they charged into the origin universe in a frenzy almost immediately. Charge! 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 Haha! Origin universe, we're coming! Chaotic life form. I will definitely become a great chaotic life form. The origin universe is mine. I want to completely conquer this origin universe. When a hole was corroded in the cosmic membrane, just enough for the three felons of chaos and the others to enter, the three felons of chaos and Fat Worm all charged into the origin universe in a frenzy at once. This was an origin universe that had never been controlled by any chaotic life forms, nor had there been any traces of invasion. The abundance of cultivation resources probably exceeded their imagination. In the chaos, they often heard of how a certain half-chaotic life form had accidentally discovered an origin universe and advanced by leaps and bounds. All of them had huge gains and became top-notch peak half-chaotic life forms at one go. There were even some who directly metamorphosed into great chaotic life forms. This was an opportunity for the three felons of chaos and an opportunity for Fat Worm. They all believed that this was a favor from the heavens. An origin universe had fallen into their laps, and it was time for them to strike it rich. Among the excited three felons of Chaos and Fat Worm was actually the fastest. Although his figure seemed very bloated, his speed was not slow at all. Even Lang San was at the front, while Lang De was at the back. Lang De had always been cautious, although he did not pay much mind to the so-called native lifeforms in the Origin universe. Who knew what the situation was like in the Origin universe? Hence, he subconsciously stayed one step behind and at the back. What a wonderful feeling! This is the Origin universe that can allow people to transcend. That is. All of a sudden, Fat Worm was stunned. His face was still filled with intoxication, but his head full of tumors looked hideous and ugly. Just as he was mesmerized, his gaze suddenly focused, and he realized that something was amiss ahead. The three felons of Chaos also felt that something was amiss, and stopped suddenly. Just as they charged into the opening of the cosmic membrane, hundreds of lifeforms stood majestically and quietly not far in front of them. They seemed to be native lifeforms of the Origin universe. However, why were the auras of these native lifeforms also strong? For a moment, the expressions of the three felons of Chaos and Fat Worm froze. On the other side of the cosmos, led by the universe supremacy, hundreds of famous divine emperors of various eras in the universe were staring intently at the stretch of cosmic membrane in the void. There, the cosmic membrane was shaking violently. Boom! Finally, with a loud sound, the cosmic membrane shattered, and a huge opening appeared. Dense, chaotic aura spewed in from the opening like a storm. However, everyone knew that it was not the Big Bang because three figures were the first to charge in from the opening. They were all grotesque and rather ugly, but the aura on their bodies was shocking. Chaotic life forms. Everyone thought of a possibility, and that was chaotic life forms. Didn't the chaos lie outside the cosmic membrane? Only chaotic life forms could survive in it. There was almost no need to guess if chaotic life forms were friends or foes when they entered the universe. Looking at the hideous and terrifying faces of these four chaotic life forms, their eyes were filled with greed. Kill! Without any hesitation, Lin Feng gave the order. He was the universe supremacy, and he knew the chaos relatively well. When life forms from the chaos invaded the universe, what else would they do apart from plundering and killing? Do good? That was completely impossible. The many divine emperors did not hesitate at all. All those who could become divine emperors had experienced all kinds of hardships. It would not be an exaggeration to say that there were countless difficulties and dangers. Every divine emperor was an outstanding figure of their era. What kind of scenarios had they not witnessed? What kind of schemes had they not encountered? Hence, they did not need to guess to know the purpose of these four uninvited guests entering the Origin universe. They would not show any mercy to invaders. Boom! How terrifying was a single strike from hundreds of divine emperors. Even more than half of the universe would shake, and even the Big Bang would be blasted apart directly. Even the eye of the universe, as long as it was not a very powerful eye of the universe, could not withstand a single strike from hundreds of divine emperors. No, hundreds of divine emperors unleashed their strongest strike without hesitation. Seeing the scene before them, the expressions of the three felons of Chaos and Fat Worm changed drastically. Even though they were all half-chaotic lifeforms, they could not help but feel fear at this moment. A conspiracy. This is a conspiracy. Run, run now. Fat Worm roared, and its body expanded rapidly. Dense chaotic aura filled his entire body. The three felons of Chaos also quickly transformed into their true forms, transforming into three giant, roaring wolves. However, it was useless. The strike of hundreds of divine emperors had already transformed into a surging torrent of power that instantly drowned the bodies of the four of them. Lin Feng's gaze narrowed slightly as he stared coldly at the center of the explosion. He had not attacked just now because it was completely unnecessary. Hundreds of divine emperors attacking was already very terrifying. However, he was a little confused. If these four were chaotic lifeforms, why hadn't the eye of the universe appeared? It had to be known that back then, outside the chaotic rift, when that chaotic lifeform tried to break through the chaotic rift and enter the Origin universe, Even the claw it had extended inside was blown up by the eye of the universe. Even its claw was left in the origin universe. However, these 4 chaotic lifeforms had all charged into the origin universe. Why had the eye of the universe not appeared? Strange. It was just too strange. Moreover, when the chaotic lifeform tried to break through the chaotic rift back then, just a little of its aura, which might only be the tip of the iceberg, was already enough to make Lin Feng's heart palpitate in fear. Even now, Lin Feng did not feel that he was a match for that chaotic lifeform. It was too terrifying. This might be the most terrifying aura he had ever sensed in his memory. In fact, the aura of the chaotic lotus that had helped Lin Feng was far stronger than the aura of these 4 chaotic lifeforms. It was as if these 4 chaotic lifeforms were simply too weak. That's right, weak. Lin Feng sensed that these 4 chaotic lifeforms were too weak. Could these be chaotic lifeforms? If all chaotic lifeforms were like this, Lin Feng felt that there was probably no point in not transcending. Swoosh! As the dust in the center of the explosion dissipated, 3 of the 4 chaotic lifeforms in the center of the explosion had already disappeared. Fat Worm disappeared, and 2 of the 3 giant wolves disappeared, leaving only a strange giant wolf. However, the so-called giant wolf was actually only over 100 meters in size. In the eyes of many divine emperors, it was simply the size of an ant. But this giant wolf was not dead. There was a faint layer of light on its entire body, and it was filled with a mysterious aura. Crunch. Like the sound of glass shattering, a shell fell off the giant wolf's body. Then, it completely shattered, revealing the giant wolf's battered body. Injured. The giant wolf was injured and severely so. It was only barely alive. Lin Feng was a little surprised. It was actually alive from the full power strike of hundreds of divine emperors. He believed that no one in the entire universe could resist such an attack, except himself. Second one, third one, and Fat Worm are all dead. Lang De of the 3 felons of chaos was panting and trembling. He was terrified. They had thought that this was an origin universe without any traces of invasion. They had thought that it was filled with all kinds of cultivation resources, and that they could crush the native lifeforms. However, the reality seemed to be different from the rumors they had heard. Was this still a weak native lifeform? Lang De had never seen such a ferocious native lifeform, especially the native lifeform in the lead. Just a little of its aura was enough to make Lang De tremble in fear. It seemed to be even more terrifying than all the peak half-chaotic lifeforms he had seen. Was this still a native lifeform? The origin universe is too dangerous. Lang De regretted it immensely. His heart was bleeding. Who are you? A voice sounded in Lang Da's mind. This was a direct mental communication without any language barriers. Lang De knew that this native lifeform should be the leader of this group of native lifeforms. Although the other party was not a chaotic lifeform, he exuded a terrifying pressure. It felt as if he was facing those peak half-chaotic lifeforms. Although Lang De also claimed to be a peak half-chaotic lifeform, that was only to flatter himself. In the vast chaos, peak half-chaotic lifeforms were all reputed, and were all extremely powerful. It was unlike the 3 felons of chaos which only had titles, but were actually still wandering in the chaos. Originally, he had thought that finding an origin universe was a huge opportunity. Unexpectedly, it was a trap that made even Lang De feel incomparably regretful. The 3 felons of chaos would cease to exist, and even he was unlikely to survive. I'm Lang De, one of the 3 felons of chaos. I'm from the Silver Moon Dire Wolf Clan in the chaos. Yes, sir. We just entered the origin universe by accident. Everything is a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Lin Feng sneered. Did this chaotic lifeform really think he was an ignorant primitive? Suppress. Lin Feng flipped his hand and grabbed Lang De. Then, he mobilized the principle of space. Dense spatial power suppressed his entire body from top to bottom. How could he break free in his current miserable state? He could only leave it to fate. A strange glint flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. He saw that there was originally a huge opening in the cosmic membrane of the void region. These 4 chaotic lifeforms had entered through it. But now, that opening had already recovered to this state, as if it had never existed. Divine Emperors, this individual came from the chaos and has an extraordinary background. I need to interrogate him properly. You can continue to search for the stones I need. The promise is still valid. Lin Feng explained things to the many Divine Emperors slightly, and the Divine Emperors all nodded. Perhaps these 4 chaotic life forms had some secret, but since they had fallen into the hands of the universe supremacy, it's not like they could snatch it. Moreover, even if there were any secrets, what was the point? They were Divine Emperors who only wanted to transcend. No matter how serious a matter was, the universe supremacy would deal with it first. For a moment, the Divine Emperors naturally relaxed and began to search around for the sacred stone of anathema that Lin Feng needed. Swoosh! Lin Feng took a step forward. He had already returned to the secret chamber of the Universe Alliance headquarters. Then Lin Feng threw Lang Da to the ground. This secret chamber was huge. Lang Da's body was only over 100 meters tall, so it could accommodate him. Lin Feng was very confused about Lang Da. The other party came from the chaos, and should be a chaotic life form. However, the aura of threat on his body was very faint, and it did not even pose a threat to Lin Feng. Was this still a chaotic life form? It had to be known that countless cultivators in the origin universe wanted to transcend, precisely because they wanted to become chaotic life forms. If they were really chaotic life forms, they should be above many Divine Emperors. Although Lang Da was quite strong and could withstand a single strike from hundreds of Divine Emperors, and was probably stronger than ordinary universe supremacies, Lang Da did not pose a threat to Lin Feng. Tell me everything you know about chaos. Lin Feng's expression was calm, and he did not use spatial power to suppress Lang Da anymore. However, Lang Da did not dare to have any thoughts. What a joke. Even at his peak, he might not be Lin Feng's match, let alone now. Great life form. Feel free to ask me anything you want to know. I will definitely tell you everything I know. Very good. You're very sensible. That would save you a lot of trouble. Lin Feng nodded. Since Lang Da was so sensible, there was no need for him to consider other methods. Are you a chaotic life form? Lin Feng asked bluntly. This was the question he wanted to ask the most when he saw the 4 of them. Chaotic life form? Big Wolf was slightly stunned. No, great life form. How can I be a chaotic life form? Every chaotic life form is famed in the universe. They are all great and powerful entities. Me, as well as Lang Air, Lang San, and Fatworm, are all only half-chaotic life forms. Half-chaotic life forms? A sharp glint flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. He had never heard of any half-chaotic life form, but he could sense from Lang Da's tone that even in the chaos, chaotic life forms had status and were very powerful entities. Great life form, you might not have been to the chaos before and do not know the situation in the chaos. There are also many ordinary life forms in the chaos. They were born in the chaos, but their strength is very ordinary, and they do not even know how to cultivate. If they know how to cultivate or are some powerful life forms with bloodline inheritances, they will basically be half-chaotic life forms after cultivating. For example, I'm from the Silver Moon Dire Wolf clan, but there isn't even a single chaotic life form in the Silver Moon Dire Wolf clan. It's just a small clan in the chaos. Originally, the 3 of us roamed the chaos, hoping to encounter some opportunities to increase our strength. Perhaps our luck changed, for we really encountered an opportunity. It's this origin universe. However, the 3 of us couldn't break the cosmic membrane, so we could only invite Fat Worm over. Fat Worm was a chaotic mutant beast. Although he wasn't very strong, his innate corrosive poison was very powerful and could corrode the cosmic membrane. Hence, we relied on Fat Worm's innate ability to corrode a hole in the cosmic membrane and entered. Who would have thought? As for what happened after, you already know. Lang Da was dejected. He even wondered if discovering the origin universe was their luck, or if their misfortune. But now, even Lang Air, Lang San, and Fat Worm were dead. It seemed like it was not their luck, but their misfortune. This origin universe was too dangerous. Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully and said, in that case, when you roamed the chaos and discovered the origin universe, you felt that entering the origin universe was profitable. You could even sweep through all the life forms in our origin universe. Just what kind of confidence made you think that you can sweep through the origin universe and dominate the entire universe? Lang De was a little embarrassed. He said cautiously, "In the past, there were rumors in the chaos that once one finds an origin universe, they will get rich. Moreover, with our understanding of the origin universe, life forms in ordinary origin universes are indeed very weak and cannot withstand a single blow. However, the origin universe you are in might be a little special." Lang Da's voice also gradually weakened. Up until now, he still did not understand how they were caught off guard and practically unable to fight back as soon as they entered the origin universe. This origin universe was really puzzling. "Tell me, how do the chaotic life forms in your chaos transcend?" Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he stared intently at Lang De transcend. Lang Da's eyes widened, as if he had thought of something. An incomparably shocked expression appeared on his face. You want to transcend?" "Yes, why not?" Transcend. You actually want to transcend. That's really, really incredible." Lang Da's entire body was trembling. It was not because he was afraid, but because he was excited. Transcendence. He had never dreamed that someone from the origin universe would actually want to transcend. Actually, he should have thought of it long ago when he saw how powerful these natives were. Only those legendary great life forms with the strength to transcend the entire origin universe could be so powerful. "Great life form, if you want to transcend, I'm afraid I can't help. However, I know that even those chaotic life forms in the chaos are far inferior to transcendence." "Oh? Isn't becoming chaotic life forms transcendence?" Lin Feng frowned. From what Lang De said, transcending seemed to be a little different. No, great life form. Chaotic life forms are chaotic life forms, and transcendence are transcendence. Let me put it this way. Transcendence must be chaotic life forms, but chaotic life forms might not be transcendence. Lin Feng frowned and said, "Tell me in detail, what's the difference between the two?" "The difference is huge." Lang De appeared very excited, and even his gaze appeared incomparably enthusiastic. He hurriedly said, "Chaotic life forms are also different. They are also divided into natural chaotic life forms and acquired chaotic life forms. As the name implies, natural chaotic life forms are born chaotic life forms. Some powerful chaotic beasts, due to their powerful bloodline inheritance, do not need to cultivate. They are very powerful half-chaotic life forms since birth, and become chaotic life forms when they reach adulthood. These are considered natural chaotic life forms. However, there are very few natural chaotic life forms in the entire chaos. Most of them are acquired chaotic life forms. As the name implies, acquired chaotic life forms cultivate to become chaotic life forms. There are also some differences. For example, we half-chaotic life forms have been in the chaos since we were born, and have never even seen the origin universe. We can only cultivate step by step, and basically reach the peak of being a half-chaotic life form. It is too difficult to become a chaotic life form. Only by encountering some kind of great opportunity can we perhaps become great chaotic life forms. There's also the life forms in the origin universe. Actually, it's even harder for them to transcend, because there is a lack of all kinds of cultivation resources in the origin universe, let alone complete cultivation methods. Transcendence is too difficult. However, once they transcend and enter the chaos, they will completely metamorphose into a chaotic life form. At that time, the average strength of a transcendent from the origin universe will be far stronger than the chaotic life forms in the chaos. Lang De explained the difference between chaotic life forms, then looked at Lin Feng intently. Lin Feng did not expect there to be such a huge difference between chaotic life forms. It seemed that once a transcendent successfully transcended and entered the chaos, they would be an extraordinary entity. "Do you know about the transcendence technique?" Lin Feng asked in a low voice. Big Wolf said with a bitter expression, "The transcendence technique is incomparably valuable, no matter where. How would I know about the transcendence technique? I don't even have the technique to become a chaotic life form. However, I've heard that once someone transcends the origin universe and enters the chaos, they can automatically metamorphose into a chaotic life form. As for exactly how, I'm not sure either. After asking around for so long, Lin Feng still could not find the method of transcendence. It seemed that it was just as Langda had said. The transcendence technique was a top-notch precious technique everywhere, even in the chaos. It was not so easy to circulate. However, Langda was ultimately a half-chaotic life form. In the past, he had always roamed the chaos. The many things he knew about the chaos might give Lin Feng some inspiration. Great life form, since you want to transcend, I hope to become your loyal servant. I will never betray you. Langda actually kowtowed, begging to become Lin Feng's servant. Lin Feng frowned and said coldly, I killed your two brothers and you don't hate me? Don't you want to take revenge on me? No, I will never hold a grudge against you. We were the ones who barged into the origin universe first. We were invaders. Lang Er and Lang San are dead because they were not strong enough. Such things are very common in the chaos. It's not embarrassing for the weak to submit to the strong. Moreover, you might become a great transcendent in the future and become a chaotic life form. It's my honor to become the servant of a great chaotic life form. Seeing how shameless Langda was, Lin Feng was a little speechless. However, Langda did have strength. Apart from Lin Feng, he was stronger than any divine emperor. He was a good helper. Moreover, Langda was familiar with the situation in the chaos. Be it before or after transcending, he would be of help to Lin Feng. All right, get up. I agree to your request. Thank you, Master. Langda was incomparably excited. A transcendent. No wonder he felt that Lin Feng's aura was very, very strong, even stronger than those peak half-chaotic lifeforms he had seen before. Turned out that Lin Feng had already begun to transcend. Once he succeeded, he would be a great and powerful transcendent, a great chaotic lifeform. As the servant of a chaotic lifeform, Lang Da's status in the chaos would also rise with his. This was someone whose coattails he could ride on. How could Lang Da pass it up so easily? In the chaos, there would be countless like Lang Da who would heed the call of a great chaotic lifeform. How could Lang Da possibly get a turn? By the way, since you can enter the origin universe, you can leave it too, right? Master, I'm afraid we can't leave anymore. We could come in because Fat Worm. His innate ability can corrode the cosmic membrane, so we can come in. As for Fat Worm, he's already dead. Therefore, unless Master transcends, we can't break the cosmic membrane at all. Naturally, we can't enter the chaos. Lin Feng had not thought of this. He did not expect that the chaotic life form that looked like a fleshworm actually had such an ability to corrode the cosmic membrane. Unfortunately, it died to the attacks of hundreds of divine emperors. Actually, Master, your aura is so strong. It seems to be stronger than all the peak half-chaotic lifeform I've seen before. With your strength, you should be able to break through a little of the cosmic membrane, right? Wouldn't leaving be a piece of cake? Lang Da was a little confused. Perhaps others could not break the cosmic membrane, but with Lin Feng's strength, it was impossible that he could not break it. At least breaking it a little would not be a problem. I can indeed break the cosmic membrane, but don't you know about the eye of the universe? If I dare to break the cosmic membrane with all my might, the eye of the universe will gather the power of the entire universe and kill me completely. Speaking of which, it's strange. In the past, there was a terrifying chaotic life form whose aura was far stronger than yours. The other party only tried to enter the origin universe through the chaotic gap, but was killed by the eye of the universe. You've already entered the origin universe. Why is the eye of the universe not doing anything? Lang Da was slightly stunned. Then his eyes widened. He hurriedly asked, Master, you mean that once you break the cosmic membrane with all your might, the power of the universe will stop you? That's right. Don't you know? This origin universe actually already has a will. No wonder this origin universe is so extraordinary that it can give birth to a powerful entity like Master. Lang Da took a deep breath and said, Master, the eye of the universe should be the manifestation of the universe's will. It will reject any power that poses a threat to it. The four of us probably pose no threat to the origin universe. Lang Da felt very resigned. They had been looked down on by the origin universe. No wonder they had entered so smoothly. It turned out that the origin universe did not consider them a threat at all. No threat? In that case, only chaotic lifeforms can pose a threat to the origin universe. I think so. Wait, Master, you mentioned before that the eye of the universe killed a chaotic lifeform with a powerful aura. No, it's just a claw from it. What? Just a claw caused the universe's will to attack in a frenzy? This is bad, this is bad. That must be a chaotic lifeform. Master, a chaotic lifeform has its eyes on the origin universe. Even if it's a natural chaotic lifeform, the origin universe is in danger. Langda took a deep breath, his eyes filled with despair. Just now, he was still in heaven, thinking that he could hang on someone's coattails and could become the servant of a great and powerful future chaotic lifeform. He did not expect to fall into hell in the next moment. This origin universe had already been targeted by a true chaotic lifeform. Usually, this meant that the origin universe would be breached sooner or later. What awaited the entire origin universe was terrifying annihilation. The origin universe is in danger? Lin Feng's gaze instantly turned sharp as he stared intently at Lang de Master. The huge claw you mentioned previously should be the claw of a natural chaotic lifeform. It has already discovered this origin universe, so it definitely will not pass on it. Lang De could not help but tremble at the thought of facing a great chaotic life form. Although he was also a half-chaotic life form, which seemed to be only one word apart from a chaotic life form, the two were worlds apart. They were completely incomparable. Since it's already a true chaotic life form, how can the origin universe be beneficial to it? Lin Feng did not panic and appeared very calm. Master, if they are acquired chaotic life forms, they would at most be curious about the origin universe. But natural chaotic life forms are different. They are born chaotic life forms, and cultivation is difficult. However, they are undoubtedly favored by chaos. They can increase their strength or accelerate their growth by devouring the universal origin of the origin universe. Once a natural chaotic life form targets the origin universe will almost certainly be doomed. Lang De really regretted it. Back when he found this origin universe, he had thought that he had struck gold. But from the looks of it, it was more like misfortune. Not only had the origin universe already developed a will, the native lifeforms inside were all very powerful. There was even a true chaotic lifeform that had its eyes on this origin universe. Wasn't he courting his own death by charging in here? That chaotic lifeform has already appeared for a relatively long time. Why hasn't it attacked yet? Master, natural chaotic lifeforms generally do not have much intelligence, unless it's a chaotic lifeform with inheritance from a peak bloodline. Perhaps it's looking for weaknesses in the origin universe. Time also flows at a different speed in the chaos compared to the origin universe and is slower there. However, natural chaotic lifeforms will never pass on an origin universe. Seeing Lang Da's panicked demeanor, Lin Feng shook his head. Although this Lang Da was a half-chaotic lifeform, he was actually no different from a cosmic lifeform. He feared death and had no temperament at all. No wonder he had always remained a half-chaotic lifeform. Without experiencing all kinds of hardships, how could his will become firm? Perhaps this was also why transcendents were stronger and improved faster than natural chaotic lifeforms. At the very least, the minds and wills of transcendents were far stronger than those natural chaotic lifeforms. If the flow of time is different, we still have a chance. If I become a transcendent, I should be able to deal with that natural chaotic lifeform, right? Lang De was slightly stunned, but he still nodded and said, even if a transcendent has just become a chaotic lifeform, they are still above ordinary innate chaotic lifeforms. However, Master, is transcendence that easy? Although you might transcend in the future, that might be a long time later. Even Lang De did not hold much hope for Lin Feng. What a joke. Although he had never seen a transcendent before and did not know how to transcend, he had seen chaotic lifeforms. Those who slowly cultivated in the chaos to become chaotic lifeforms all experienced countless hardships and dangers. They had to be incredibly lucky be able to become chaotic lifeforms. Moreover, Lin Feng had to transcend the origin universe. Was this possible in a short period of time? Lin Feng ignored Lang De. He had cultivated step by step since he was weak until now. and experienced all kinds of trials and tribulations in the process. Even if the universe was destroyed, the cosmos collapsed and death descended, it would not affect his heart by much. Cultivation was about cultivating one's strength, but more than that, it was about cultivating the mind. However, this universe was ultimately where he was born. It was where his family and places he cared about were. Lin Feng did not want the entire universe to be destroyed unless it was absolutely inevitable. In fact, in order to avoid destroying the universe, Lin Feng actually chose the transcendence technique of transforming into a universe. Moreover, Lin Feng still wanted to transcend. Although he was indifferent to life and death, he did not truly want to die. He still wanted to go to the chaos and see more majestic phenomena there. Looks like I have to hurry. Lin Feng also felt a trace of urgency. He did not know how great the difference in the flow of time between the chaos and the origin universe was, but he knew that there might not be much time left. Transcendence. He only had one goal, and that was to transcend. If he wanted to transcend, he had to comprehend the principle of time. Up until now, Lin Feng had no clue about the law of time, let alone the principle of time. Moreover, he could not place all his hopes on the sacred stone of anathema. After all, Lin Feng was not certain whether he could find all the fragments of the sacred stone of anathema. Apart from the sacred stone of anathema, Lin Feng was not incapable of doing anything about the law of time. He could use the sacred stone of anathema to comprehend all the principles in the universe. He believed that there were similarities in principles. Perhaps, after he comprehended all the principles, he would be able to comprehend a trace of the true meaning in the principle of time. Hence, Lin Feng threw Langda out and asked Langda to pay attention to the situation in the universe at all times. As for whether Langda would cause trouble, Lin Feng was completely unworried. He could crush Langda whenever he wanted. Considering Langda's cowardly personality, he would definitely not cause trouble while Lin Feng was alive. Years passed, and peace seemed to return to the universe. Even though Lin Feng had not made many appearances, the Universe Alliance continued to expand. Now, it had already spanned more than half of the universe, and became a true Universe Alliance, the #1 faction in the universe. Moreover, as the news of the respect of the innumerable divine emperors spread, the entire universe learned that the alliance leader of the Universe Alliance, Lin Feng, had already become a universe supremacy. Hence, all the cosmic conflicts gradually dissipated. Even the traces of the fiends disappeared completely. Perhaps they were hidden, or perhaps they were really gone. With a universe supremacy guarding over the entire universe, the universe would basically be very peaceful. However, only Lin Feng knew that the universe was not peaceful. Beyond the universe, there was still a huge shadow looming over the entire origin universe. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. In the blink of an eye, more than 5 years had passed. Lin Feng had the aid of the sacred stone of anathema, and had metamorphosed into a divine emperor with a consummate combat body. His combat body could interfere with principles and laws. Hence, he could comprehend a principle almost every day now. Up until now, he had already comprehended a total of 2,000 principles. What was the significance of 2,000 principles? No divine emperor could resist the miniature eye of the universe formed from it anymore. Just the miniature eye of the universe could instantly kill any divine emperor. Even Langda was extremely wary of the miniature eye of the universe. However, Lin Feng still saw no signs of comprehending the law of time. Supremacy. I found the stone you wanted. Suddenly, Lin Feng received a message from a divine emperor. You found the sacred stone of anathema fragment? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he also grew a little excited. Ever since he became a universe supremacy, very few things had excited Lin Feng. The sacred stone of anathema was what Lin Feng valued the most, but there had never been any clues. Unexpectedly, 5 years later, the sacred stone of anathema was finally found. Swoosh! Without any hesitation, Lin Feng stepped into a spatial passage directly and quickly disappeared from the secret chamber. Buzz! At the end of the universe, when Lin Feng took a step forward, Divine Emperor Incandescent was already waiting there. The one who sent Lin Feng a message this time was Divine Emperor Incandescent. He was the one who had found the sacred stone of anathema fragment. Supremacy. Divine Emperor Incandescent. You found the sacred stone? Lin Feng asked bluntly. Yes, supremacy. However, whether it's the sacred stone still requires your confirmation, supremacy. Hence, Divine Emperor Incandescent flipped his hand, and 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments appeared in his palm. These were a total of 2 fragments, which surprised even Lin Feng. 2 fragments. There are actually 2 fragments. Lin Feng was both joyous and surprised. It was very difficult for him to feel overjoyed about anything now. These sacred stone of anathema fragments undoubtedly made even Lin Feng rather overjoyed. Supremacy. This is the sacred stone you wanted, right? That's right. This is what I need. Divine Emperor Incandescent, since you've found 2 pieces, I can offer you 2 promises. As long as it's within my ability, I won't decline. Lin Feng made a solemn promise. Once he obtained 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments, he would have a total of 7 sacred stone of anathema fragments. It seemed like he was not that far from gathering all the sacred stone of anathema fragments. Ha! With this promise from supremacy, I'm satisfied. Divine Emperor Incandescent also smiled. Wasn't this what he had worked so hard to find the sacred stone for? 2 promises from a supremacy could be considered priceless. By the way, Divine Emperor Incandescent, where did you find these 2 sacred stones? Lin Feng asked curiously. It was also unusual to be able to find 2 at once. Based on supremacy's request, I searched constantly in the region at the end of the universe. However, unlike other divine emperors, when I encounter some planets, I will enter the planets to search for them. This time, I found these 2 rocks on an inhabited planet not far from the end of the universe. The people on the planet worshipped them as sacred stones from the sky. Lin Feng nodded. He did not ask if there were any more sacred stone fragments. Since Divine Emperor Incandescent had given him the sacred stone fragments now, it meant that Divine Emperor Incandescent had already searched the nearby planets. There were definitely no more sacred stone fragments. 7 sacred stone of anathema fragments. Lin Feng also looked forward to seeing it at work. There were only 9 sacred stone of anathema fragments in total, and now he had already gathered more than half of them. He wondered what the effect would be like. This was especially the case for the principle of time. Even if he could not comprehend the principle of time, Lin Feng still wanted to comprehend the law of time before striving to comprehend the principle of time. If he had no clue at all, it would be too difficult to comprehend the principle of time. Just as Lin Feng was about to bid farewell and return to the Universe Alliance, the void at the end of the universe suddenly shook violently. Immediately after, some divine emperors also sensed the tremors and rushed over. Crunch. Spiderweb-like cracks began to appear in the cosmic membrane. Then, a large amount of chaotic aura spewed in. Chaotic rift. This is a chaotic rift. So much chaotic aura. I didn't expect to find a chaotic rift at the end of the universe. This much chaotic aura is enough for my combat body to improve by another level. Looking at the large amount of chaotic aura, countless divine emperors were tempted. They all pounced towards the chaotic rift and began to devour the chaotic aura in large gulps. Lin Feng did not pounce towards the chaotic rift immediately, nor did he devour the chaotic aura. Instead, he frowned and stared at the void at the end of the universe. This was because the chaotic rift was not limited to one place, but presented as spiderweb-like cracks that were constantly expanding. One by one, the cracks were slowly increasing. This did not seem like a naturally formed chaotic rift. Chaotic aura. This is indeed chaotic aura. Lin Feng reached out and grabbed, catching a trace of chaotic aura. However, he did not devour it. Something seemed to jump slightly in his body, and then, the chaotic aura disappeared. Lin Feng searched carefully. He naturally had complete control over his body and was very familiar with it. Hence, after searching carefully, he quickly found an unusual place in his body. It was a tiny lotus seed, the lotus seed given to Lin Feng by the chaotic lotus in the chaos back then. It had always been very quiet within Lin Feng's body. Unexpectedly, it reacted to this trace of chaotic aura. The chaotic aura had already disappeared. It must have been devoured by this chaotic lotus seed. Could the chaotic lotus seed grow? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat as he thought of a possibility. Hence, he seized another large amount of chaotic aura, and the chaotic lotus seed quickly appeared in his palm. Then, a large amount of chaotic aura was devoured by the chaotic lotus seed. However, apart from developing some luster, the chaotic lotus seed did not change at all. It was not that nothing had changed at all. The chaotic lotus seed had a little more vitality, as if it had become a little more active. In the past, although Lin Feng could also sense the vitality in the chaotic lotus seed, he could never nurture it, let alone allow it to take root and germinate. Now Lin Feng understood. The chaotic lotus seed probably required a large amount of chaotic aura to successfully cultivate. Otherwise, the chaotic lotus seed would not take root and germinate at all. After all, the chaotic lotus seed was a product of the chaos to begin with. Lin Feng was also very resigned. He could not afford the upkeep of this chaotic lotus seed at all in the present. Even the chaotic aura from the chaotic rift was only a drop in the bucket for the chaotic lotus seed. It was not of much use at all. Moreover, what was the use of spending so much effort to cultivate the chaotic lotus seed successfully? I can only ask you to bear with it for the time being. In the future, when I transcend and enter the chaos, you can absorb all the chaotic aura you want and grow, Lin Feng said to the chaotic lotus seed. Then, he put away the chaotic lotus seed again and fused it into the depths of his body. This chaotic lotus seed seemed to have a miraculous connection with Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng did not know what was going on, but he could sense that this chaotic lotus seed had no effect on him at all, and thus let the chaotic lotus seed be. So much chaotic aura. Supremacy, I won't stand on ceremony. Haha. Even Divine Emperor Incandescent could not help but fly towards the chaotic rift and begin to devour the chaotic aura in large gulps. This was simply an unprecedented grand occasion. So many divine emperors were competing for the chaotic aura. It was simply a miraculous scene. However, with a universe supremacy like Lin Feng around, they also did not fight over it. Crack, crack. Lin Feng scanned with his mental power and realized that more and more cracks were appearing in the cosmic membrane. He had a vague premonition. A chaotic rift wouldn't appear for no reason, and it's such a large chaotic rift at that. This is unheard of. Could it be? An idea flashed through Lin Feng's mind. He recalled that the chaotic life form that Langda had mentioned had its eyes on the origin universe. However, after so long without any movement from it, he had gradually let his guard down. Buzz. Suddenly, a huge eye of the universe condensed in the cosmos. It was larger than any eye of the universe Lin Feng had ever seen. The power of the principles constantly condensing inside shocked even Lin Feng. The eye of the universe would only appear when a huge threat appeared in the universe. Moreover, the size of the eye of the universe meant that the universe sensed a threat, and a huge threat at that. This is bad. Seeing the eye of the universe appear, Lin Feng's heart sank. Perhaps the greatest calamity for the universe was imminent. However, it was too late for him to remind them now. Boom! The entire universe shook violently. The cosmic membrane, already covered in countless cracks, seemed to encounter some terrifying external force as it shattered with a bang. Come back! Lin Feng did not hesitate at all and instantly deployed his combat body. This was the first time he had used his combat body after 9 life transitions and metamorphosing into a divine emperor. Back when he metamorphosed, he was only undergoing metamorphosis and was not even familiar with the power of his combat body. Only now could it be considered the first time he had truly used his combat body at full power as a universe supremacy. There was a threat, an enormous threat. Lin Feng sensed a trace of dangerous aura that made his heart palpitate wildly. It came from outside the shattered cosmic membrane. A huge claw suddenly extended in from the shattered cosmic membrane. It was this huge claw again. Lin Feng was all too familiar with it. Back in the chaotic rift, it was this huge claw that was shattered by the eye of the universe. Now it was this claw again. Without a doubt, this must be that natural chaotic life form. Just as Langda had said, this natural chaotic life form must have set its sights on the origin universe. Now, this natural chaotic life form was attacking again. Bang, bang, bang. Lin Feng's warning was already too late. Even though everyone present were famed divine emperors, they could not withstand a single blow from this huge claw. Like crushing melons, wherever the giant claw passed, the combat bodies of divine emperors would be blown apart and crushed by the giant claw. The aura of death filled the entire cosmos. It was a shocking sight. Although it was called a giant claw, it was not too big. It was at most over 100 meters. Although it was larger than Lang Da's body, relative to the divine emperors, whose mighty combat bodies spanned hundreds of millions of light years in size, there was no comparison. However, this mere giant claw of 100 meters was invincible. Wherever it passed, the combat body of a divine emperor would collapse upon contact, and all of them would fall. Lin Feng knew that this was a chaotic life form, a true chaotic life form. After Lang Da joined Lin Feng and willingly became his servant, Lin Feng was also very curious about half-chaotic life forms. He had also studied them for a long time. Lang Da did not seem to have any cultivation techniques for the combat body. Or rather, Lang Da's body was his true body, which was limited in size. However, as his body was constructed fully from chaotic aura, the strength of his body was simply incredible. Even a divine emperor could do nothing to Lang Da. If not for the eye, and not for Lin Feng and the hundreds of divine emperors attacking together, it would not just be empty talk for the three felons of chaos and Fat Worm to sweep through the origin universe. Half-chaotic life forms relied on their chaotic bodies. They were practically invincible in the origin universe. Unfortunately, they encountered Lin Feng. The origin universe had developed a will, and there were even hundreds of divine emperors. Hence, Lang Da and the others were destined to fail. This was only a half-chaotic life form. As for true chaotic life forms, even natural chaotic life forms that were relatively weak among chaotic life forms were true chaotic life forms. They were completely incomparable to half-chaotic life forms. The difference was simply worlds apart. Hence, this was a true chaotic life form. Its giant claw would naturally be unmatched in power at every turn. No divine emperor could resist it. Almost as soon as the giant claw reached into the universe, it instantly crushed 5 divine emperors. These were 5 esteemed divine emperors. Immediately, the cosmos shook, and the principles wailed. The fall of 5 divine emperors at the same time was probably incomparably rare since ancient times. What is that? It can actually crush 5 divine emperors in an instant. Unbelievable. It's from chaos. It's a life form in chaos. The divine emperors fled backward in a frenzy. It was too terrifying. That aura simply made them tremble. Moreover, wherever the giant claw passed, there was no way to resist it at all. Boom! At this moment, the eye of the universe in the cosmos suddenly descended and blasted towards the huge claw. Thud! The giant claw was shaken by the terrifying power of the principles. The giant claw retreated a little, but it held out. Moreover, furious roars came from the chaos outside the cosmic membrane. At the same time, the giant claw grabbed towards the eye of the universe in the cosmos and crushed it directly. Could not be resisted. Could not be resisted at all. Even the eye of the universe had been crushed. Calamity. This was a calamity. Divine emperors had lived for countless years, and were all very ancient entities. How could they not know that this was a calamity? The giant claw was simply invincible. Even divine emperors were like bubbles before the giant claw, unable to withstand a single blow. Get lost! Lin Feng did not hesitate at all. He was a member of the origin universe. It was impossible for him to stand by and do nothing. Moreover, if the origin universe was destroyed, no egg would remain intact when its nest was overturned. Lin Feng knew very well that this was a life-or-death moment. Boom! How massive was Lin Feng's combat body? With a single strike, the entire universe was shaking violently. Moreover, countless principles were vaguely rumbling in the cosmos. A total of 2,000 principles were rumbling. At this moment, Lin Feng even felt that the power of the entire universe was converging towards his body and his 2,000 principles. This feeling was really miraculous. It was as if he had the power of the entire universe, or rather infinite power from all directions enhanced his body. It was as if he had been enhanced by the entire universe. At this moment, Lin Feng was the universe, and the universe was Lin Feng. Hence, his strength was not just 10 or 100 times stronger, but even tens of thousands of times stronger. As Lin Feng's palm slammed down hard, the entire void was enveloped. All the power condensed in Lin Feng's palm and landed on the giant claw. Crack! The giant claw shattered, but Lin Feng's huge palm also suffered a violent shock at that moment and shattered instantly. Even Lin Feng's combat body collapsed. A violent force was vaguely transmitted into the depths of Lin Feng's combat body, destroying it in a frenzy. He even had a vague premonition of death. Lin Feng could clearly sense that in the face of this violent power, even the principle of life seemed to be powerless, and all the cosmic power was helpless. This was the power of chaos, the power of a true chaotic life form. But suddenly, at the critical moment, the chaotic lotus seed in the depths of Lin Feng's combat body jumped slightly and developed a huge suction force, devouring the violent chaotic power. At the same time, the luster on the chaotic lotus seed became brighter and brighter. Then it actually twitched slightly. Crunch! Finally, the chaotic lotus seed began to shatter, and dense cracks appeared on it. Then, a rich aura of life filled the chaotic lotus seed. Moreover, a green sprout had grown, hidden in the depths of Lin Feng's combat body. It looked very strange. This is the embryonic form of the chaotic lotus? Lin Feng did not expect the chaotic lotus seed to have such an ability. He had averted danger again. The chaotic lotus had saved Lin Feng again. If not for this chaotic lotus seed, Lin Feng would probably be doomed this time. Chaotic life forms were even more terrifying than Lin Feng had imagined. The principle of life he had comprehended was only the principle of life in the origin universe. Once he encountered chaotic power, even the power of the universe would be useless, let alone the principle of life in the universe. Gore! Outside the chaos, there were still roars. However, a huge eye of the universe was formed in the cosmos again, and the power of the principles poured down in a frenzy. The giant claw was finally reduced to dust. Then, the cosmic membrane recovered at the fastest possible speed with the aid of the eye of the universe. The sounds of the chaotic life form also disappeared. The origin universe was safe for the time being. After the violent chaotic energy in Lin Feng's combat body was devoured by the chaotic lotus seed, it quickly recovered to its original state with the help of the principle of life. It was as if nothing had happened just now. However, Lin Feng knew very well that just now, he could not even withstand a single strike from a chaotic life form. He had almost died. Supremacy, it was the universe supremacy who resisted the chaotic life form and stopped the calamity. As expected of the universe supremacy, the strongest expert in the universe. His combat body is simply terrifyingly strong. Such a massive combat body is unheard of. He's probably the strongest universe supremacy in history. He's not just the strongest supremacy in history. He's probably the strongest cultivator since the birth of the entire universe, and a great entity with the greatest chance of transcendence. When the divine emperors saw Lin Feng attack, their eyes widened in shock. In that scene just now, Lin Feng seemed to be above everyone. Just a trace of his aura was enough to suffocate them. This was no longer something that previous generations of universe supremacies could compare to. Even the divine Emperor of Silence was far less powerful than Lin Feng. The calamity has just begun. Lin Feng was not optimistic, however. He looked at the surrounding divine emperors, his tone filled with solemnity. At the Universe Alliance headquarters, Lang De rushed back. Master, I heard that you encountered a chaotic life form? Moreover, you unleashed your prowess and chased the chaotic life form away. Lang Da's face was filled with disbelief and showed a trace of obsequence. Thud. Lin Feng sent Lang Da flying with a single palm strike. Moreover, the miniature eye of the universe formed from 2,000 principles instantly locked onto Lang Da. Lang Da's entire body fell silent. He almost cried, Master, what's wrong with you? Lang Da, since you've followed me and become my servant, You have to understand your duty. In the chaos, if a master encounters danger and their servant is not around, what kind of punishment will there be? Lang Da's entire body trembled. Heaven had pity on him. He had indeed hidden such a small thought in his heart. How could he not have sensed the aura of a chaotic life form? He was a half-chaotic life form. How could he not sense the aura of a true chaotic life form? However, even after the Eye of the Universe defeated the chaotic life form's giant claw, there was no sign of Lang Da. Where was Lang Da? There was no need to guess. He must be hiding. Lin Feng was not so easy to fool. Master, I know my mistake. Master, please give me another chance. Lang Da was really afraid of death. In the chaos, once one became a follower or servant, and their master died, all the servants would have to die together. He was so cowardly that once he discovered the aura of a chaotic life form, he would hide as far as he could. Why would he take the initiative to approach it? He had thought that Lin Feng was easy to fool. He did not expect Lin Feng to see through his thoughts at once. Even at that moment, he could sense Lin Feng's killing intent. It was no joke in the slightest. Humph! Don't repeat your mistake. A trace of coldness flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. If not for the fact that Lang Da was indeed somewhat useful, he would have killed Lang Da directly just now. However, he believed that after this warning, Lang Da would know that he was not so easy to fool. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Lang Da was filled with regret. If he had known that Lin Feng could defeat that chaotic life form, he wouldn't have hidden. Lin Feng closed his eyes. Actually, he was still thinking about the giant claw of the chaotic life form. Since the other party had done it the first time, the second time, there must be a third time. Once the other party broke the cosmic membrane for the third time, it would probably not just be a claw descending. It might even be the real descent of its true form. A chaotic life form, even a natural chaotic life form, was capable of destroying an origin universe. Lin Feng knew very well that he might not have much time left. Transcend. He had to transcend. Get lost. Yes, I'll get lost now. Lang Da hurriedly stood up and prepared to leave, but Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes. He frowned and asked in a low voice, Lang Da, is it possible to communicate with the will of the universe? Communicate. Lang Da was slightly stunned, but he shook his head and said, the universe's will is only a protective mechanism of the universe. Perhaps not. I'm not very clear about this either. Lang Da shook his head. In the chaos, he had indeed never heard of any possibility of communicating with the universe's will. Perhaps a chaotic life form had once found an origin universe that developed a will. However, chaotic life forms could destroy the entire universe. Why would they communicate with the will of the origin universe? Can't communicate? All right, you may leave. Lin Feng waved his hand. After Lang Da left, Lin Feng fell into deep thought. He recalled when he was dealing with the giant claw of the chaotic life form previously. Originally, the Eye of the Universe had already been defeated, but after Lin Feng used his combat body and the 2000 principles, he felt as if the power of the entire universe was augmenting his body. That feeling was incomparably wonderful. It could even break the claw of a chaotic life form with a single strike. However, after the chaotic life form was driven out of the universe, that feeling completely disappeared. Lin Feng felt as if he had become countless times weaker all of a sudden. Lin Feng knew very well that although his combat body was strong, it was not that strong. It was very likely that he had been enhanced by the universe's will. The universe's will could already make a simple judgment on which was the threat and which was the helper. If I can communicate with the universe, even if it's just a simple form of communication, a bold thought flashed through Lin Feng's mind. This thought seemed incomparably absurd, but if he had no better option, he might be able to give it a try. As for now, Lin Feng still placed his hopes on the sacred stone of anathema. Sacred stone of anathema. Fuse. Lin Feng took out 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments. In 5 years, he had mobilized hundreds of divine emperors, but he had only found 2 fragments of the sacred stones of anathema. Lin Feng was no longer confident that he could find any more in the future. Hence, these 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments were extremely precious. Lin Feng treasured them very much. Buzz. The 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments quickly began to fuse with the other 5. The fusion process went very smoothly. By the time the fusion ended, the number of sacred stone of anathema fragments had already reached 7, and it became clearly larger. There were only 2 gaps left. Lin Feng had practically gathered most of the sacred stone of anathema. Come on, law of life. Lin Feng enveloped the sacred stone of anathema with the ultimate law of life. Boom! Immediately, the sacred stone of anathema shook slightly. Then, a majestic, vast, and mysterious principle appeared in the sacred stone of anathema. The principle of life. This was the principle of life. Lin Feng was a little overjoyed. Even though he had previously predicted that once the sacred stone of anathema fragments were collected to a certain extent, they might be able to manifest the principle of life, that was just his prediction. But now it proved that Lin Feng's prediction was right. He could indeed manifest the principle of life. In the past, when there were only 5 sacred stone of anathema fragments, it could only manifest the law of life but not the principle of life. The principle of life can already be manifested. Is the principle of time still far away? Lin Feng had a feeling that after he gathered all the sacred stones of anathema, he might be able to manifest the principle of time. However, after trying it now, he still could not manifest the principle of time, and could not even manifest the law of time. Time was the most mysterious. Since ancient times, no one had ever comprehended the law of time, let alone the principle of time. There was not even any trace of the characteristics of the law of time recorded. It was very abstract. No one could say for certain if there was a principle of time. There are 2 sacred stones of anathema fragments short. I don't have much time left. Lin Feng knew that he did not have much time left. Or rather, the origin universe did not have much time left. He had to find 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments as soon as possible. For this, even if he had to pay some price, it would be worth it. Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei. Lin Feng summoned Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei, who was on duty, into the hall. Greetings, Alliance Leader. Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei bowed respectfully to Lin Feng. The current Universe Alliance was no longer what it once was. Similarly, the Alliance Leader Lin Feng was no longer what he once was. The current Lin Feng was a universe supremacy, the ruler of the entire universe, and the strongest among all cultivators. He had boundless authority. Even the Alliance Deputy Leader had to be careful when facing Lin Feng. Lin Feng glanced at Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei and said indifferently, "Please issue a bounty for the entire universe." Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei. Anyone who can find such a sacred stone can make any request of me and the Universe Alliance. What? Alliance Leader, this Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei was shocked. Now that Lin Feng was a dignified universe supremacy, there was no knowing how much unrest his bounty would cause in the entire universe. Lin Feng even knew very well that with his current influence, releasing such a message was destined to shake the entire universe, and might even cause many unnecessary troubles. However, time was tight, and Lin Feng could not afford so many inhibitions. Go ahead and do it. The sooner, the better. Yes, as Alliance Leader commands. Alliance Deputy Leader Yu Wei took his leave respectfully. As the Universe Alliance released Alliance Leader Lin Feng's Universal Bounty, it indeed shook the universe. Right now, Lin Feng's status was very different. He had a series of titles such as the Universe Supremacy, the strongest person in the universe, the strongest being in the history of the universe, the one with the greatest chance of transcendence, and so on. Without a doubt, the current Lin Feng was the ruler of the universe, who could dominate over everything. Hence, his universal bounty naturally shook the entire universe. From divine emperors to ordinary cultivators who had undergone 1 or 2 life transitions, everyone began to pay attention to a type of small sacred stone. Even the appearance of the sacred stone of anathema spread throughout the entire universe. Countless battles and tragedies, and even bloody massacres, had been triggered in order to compete for such sacred stones, even similar stones. Lin Feng was also responsible for all of this. He received all kinds of sacred stones one after another. Unfortunately, while they were very similar to the sacred stone of anathema fragments, they were not the sacred stone of anathema. The Universe Alliance's influence spanned the entire universe. Hence, Lin Feng naturally knew all kinds of battles and killings in the universe caused by the universal bounty. However, he could not stop the bounty, because he understood that the entire origin universe was facing danger now. If he did not find the sacred stone of anathema as soon as possible, he would not be able to comprehend the principle of time, and could not transcend. If the true form of that chaotic life form descended into the universe, the entire universe would be destroyed. However, very few people in the universe knew about the descent of the chaotic life form and the cosmic crisis now. Apart from Lin Feng and Lang De, there wasn't a third individual who knew the entire secret. Perhaps some divine emperors would have some guesses, but those would only be guesses. Lin Feng had never revealed any information. Many divine emperors wanted to ask about that giant claw back then, but Lin Feng only smiled and did not respond directly at all. After all, even if it was announced, what good would it do the universe? It would probably only cause panic, and even divine emperors were no exception. Faced against chaotic life forms, the number of divine emperors was useless. Forget about hundreds of divine emperors. Even if tens of thousands of divine emperors attacked together, they would only be ants that could be casually crushed by the chaotic life form. They would pose no threat at all. Hence, Lin Feng alone had to know this secret. He did not know when the next descent of the chaotic life form would be, but he knew that he did not have much time left. He had to find the sacred stone of anathema, but he also could not stop comprehending principles. He had already comprehended 2,000 principles, and could comprehend one principle almost every day. But even so, he still had not comprehended all the principles in the entire universe. Lin Feng had to make preparations on both sides. If he could not find the sacred stone of anathema fragment, he could still rely on the principles he had comprehended to deduce the principle of time and see if it would work. Time passed quickly. 1 year, 2 years. Almost 3 years later, Lin Feng finally comprehended all the principles in the universe. There were a total of 2,999 principles. Lin Feng could no longer comprehend any principles. Legend had it that although there were many principles in the universe, there were only a total of 3,000 principles. From the looks of it, the rumors were not groundless. There were 2,999 principles. If there was a principle of time, wouldn't it be exactly 3,000 principles? However, without comprehending the principle of time, Lin Feng still could not transcend. In the past 2 years, even though a bloodbath had occurred in the universe and countless rocks similar to the sacred stone of anathema had been found, they were all ordinary rocks, and not the sacred stone of anathema. Lin Feng knew that it would probably not be so easy to find the remaining 2 fragments of the sacred stone of anathema in a short period of time. In fact, it might never be found. However, without the sacred stone of anathema, Lin Feng could still use the principles to deduce the principle of time. He could use the 2,999 principles he had comprehended to deduce the principle of time. This was also why Lin Feng would race against time, and did not give up on comprehending the principle every minute. Then let's begin. Lin Feng took a deep breath and adjusted his state. Deducing the principle of time was not something that could be accomplished overnight. Even Lin Feng was not confident at all, but he had to deduce it. It was because this was the only hope. Boom! As Lin Feng began to deduce the principle of time, the principle of life began to appear in the cosmos, followed by the principle of space. These were 2 of the 3 basic principles in the universe. Boom! 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 Principles constantly manifested in the cosmos. Principle of destruction, principle of killing, principle of tides, principle of fire, principle of storm. Every manifestation of a principle would shake the cosmos, alarming countless cultivators. Even divine emperors looked at the cosmos at the location of the Universe Alliance in surprise. 1 principle, 2 principles, 3 principles, 4 principles, 5 principles. Countless principles. There were really countless principles. If there were only 1 or 2 principles, perhaps divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors would not pay much attention to them. However, 10 or 20 of them were already eye-catching. As for the hundreds or thousands of principles, They could only be shocked. How can there be so many principles? Heavens, incredible, truly incredible. All the principles in the universe must be gathered here, right? This is an opportunity, an incredibly huge opportunity. With so many principles manifested, if I can comprehend one or two, won't I be able to master principles? That's the cosmos at the Universe Alliance headquarters. Could it be the universe supremacy? Other than the universe supremacy, who else can comprehend so many principles? Hundreds of principles had gathered in the cosmos. Such a huge commotion had alarmed countless powerful entities. Even divine emperors who were still slumbering would immediately wake up. No one had ever been able to comprehend hundreds of principles, let alone thousands. Some attentive cultivators counted the principles carefully. There were actually a total of 2,999 principles. This also meant that the universe supremacy Lin Feng had actually comprehended 2,999 principles. How terrifying was this number? If a cultivator, even a divine emperor, had suddenly comprehended so many principles, the other divine emperors would probably all attack together. This was because there must be a shocking secret in it. However, the one who comprehended the principles was the universe supremacy, Lin Feng, the ruler and strongest being in the universe. Who would dare to be impudent? They did not even develop any greed. Lin Feng's strength was already known to all. In front of Lin Feng, even the other universe supremacies who had dominated various eras were probably not much better than other divine emperors. How could the title of the strongest supremacy in the history of the universe be undeserved? No one dared to covet the secrets of Lin Feng. They were more curious. What was Lin Feng trying to do by suddenly manifesting so many principles? There are so many principles. Why is the principle of time the only one missing? The principle of time? That's right. The most mysterious principle of time is indeed missing. Among the 3,000 principles in the universe, there are 2,999 principles manifested now. The only one missing is the principle of time. Once one comprehends it, his principles will be consummate. Could the supremacy be deducing the principle of time? Many divine emperors were stunned. The principle of time. Lin Feng was deducing the principle of time. They even thought of the transcendence technique Lin Feng had imparted. Didn't it require comprehending the three principles of time, space, and life? Now that there were so many principles, there was only one principle missing. Transcendence. The supremacy is already seeking transcendence. Some divine emperors deduced Lin Feng's goal. For a moment, the gazes of countless divine emperors gathered here. Perhaps they were about to witness the birth of the first transcendent in the entire origin universe. Or perhaps it would be another failure,